Okay, so thank you all. Those are 3 great presentations, a lot of really cool information in there, and some fantastic big brand campaigns. So congratulations to each of you, and thanks for sharing those. So Scott kind of ended with a focus on ROI, and I know in one of the earlier sessions there was some discussion about ROI. In fact, Bruno Uzan, Scott's CEO, was lamenting the lack of ROI in augmented reality, and said, you know, the lack of ROI is going to kill this business. So Lisa, let me start with you. What's your thought about that, and you know, how's ROI working into the projects that Matayo's doing?
I think for those of you who come from an agency background or marketing background, I mean, ROI is an important word, an important number, because that's how you measure things on. But I think from Matayo's perspective, when we work with clients and agencies, we look at ROI beyond than just, you know, what is the conversion rate, what is the download numbers. We're also looking at the intangibles. So one of the greatest use cases today of augmented reality is the Lego digital kiosk. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's an in-store kiosk. It's available in all Lego retail stores worldwide. And the idea is it's a yellow box that the kid or the parent, whoever it is, could go up, sorry. Actually, I'm loud enough, so I'll just say, hold a box in front of the kiosk and be able to see the virtual toy come alive, animated on top of the box. When you talk about ROI, numbers increase in double-digit sales at the retail stores compared to stores that don't have it. But an important aspect of that, which Lego was looking for at the time when they, you know, reached out to us, was engagement at the store, and also brand connection and brand love. So by able to create an experience where kids are fighting to be in front of the kiosk, and they're holding every Lego box possible and seeing the content and seeing the brand come alive without having to take it home and actually build it, that's an ROI, that's an intangible that you can't measure. So, you know, everybody wants to know, what is the ROI of this campaign? What are the numbers? There's so many different ways to measure it, and you know, you can measure it by just the emotion or the intangibles versus just kind of one solitary number. So,
Justin, what about you? ROI with MySpace.
Yeah.
How did they think about it, and how did you think about it?
That's a great, and I really want to piggyback off those comments. It's, you know, the marketing agencies and the brands really think of physical products sold and what's the conversion rate, right? But I think our biggest attack with MySpace, and obviously them being a digital company where they don't sell physical products and they don't look for people coming into a retail store necessarily or buying their goods, is the social uptick. So with augmented reality, you're encouraging users to do something a little bit more than just clicking a like button on a website or following someone on Twitter. There's an engagement. And if we're able to connect that socially, then you can track the metrics on social uptick. And that's your ROI, because you're gaining users and you're gaining eyeballs. And eyeballs turn into sales, and they turn into new activations if it's MySpace or Gravity Jack or whatever that might be.
So Scott, you guys have been doing marketing campaigns at Total Immersion for a long time, and so you've seen a lot of these things go by. I think you also know a lot of the campaigns are pretty expensive, right? You know, these are high-dollar campaigns to create really high-quality, you know, animated content and models, and you know, create the apps. Do you think that the ROI for that kind of marketing engagement is sustainable in the long term compared to other things that advertisers can be doing?
I think so. Just to piggyback even a little more on what my colleagues here said, what's most important, I think, when you're engaging with agencies or the clients directly, is to define up front what is the ROI they're looking for and what is considered a success metric. Because if you don't do that, then invariably you have a large opportunity or a large potential to have a very disappointed customer. In the case of the Tic Tac, it was great for us because they made augmented reality front and center to the campaign. Really, you couldn't get around it. And that was great because it was going to live or be successful or failure on its own, and so it was very straightforward. But I'm going to mirror a couple of, is Bruno here? A couple comments that he made in his last presentation, which is, if you don't have a good communication plan, if you don't understand how to build that into your campaign, and you just leave it there, then you have a potential for it to be very disappointing. So that's some sage advice I would give to anybody that's either working with an agency or you are an agency and you're talking to an AR client about what they can do for you.
Can I just jump on
A
that?
rejoinder?
Can I piggyback a little bit more? So, you know, when agencies come to us, they ask for what is ROI, and I think, you know, Total Immersion, Tic-Tac campaign is a great example of why agencies, you know, when they look for ROI, they also need to give, you know, marketing space. We work with a lot of, you know, agencies and brands, and, you know, they print an ad in a magazine, there's no instructions, and they expect to have ROI and to have downloads. Well, if you don't put in the money to really advertise it, to promote it on Times Square, how is consumers going to find out? So that's another thing that, you know, we really encourage agencies is, you know, you're spending all that money on great experiences, content, spend a little bit more to advertise it as well, to communicate to the consumers of what they need to do, because augmented reality is not a simple technology. You can design it to be accessible and to be simple, but you need to communicate to the consumers of what they need to do.
Yep. I've heard that a lot too, that, you know, you really do need to support your campaigns, and I think the ones that are supported by, you know, additional marketing dollars actually can be more successful. But still, you know, I know from my days at Layer, a lot of times you still get these conversations, right, about it's a numbers game, right? And AR is pretty small, you know, what's your installed base for your apps, and how many, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of users can we get for downloads? Because at the end of the day, they really do want to reach a broad audience. Is that right? So you know, I'm curious, how do you guys see that the industry kind of builds more penetration and more mind share so that you can actually start delivering numbers and not just nice experiences for small communities of people? Anyone who wants to take that, just go for it.
I'll start and then I'll pass it off. For Gravity Jack, our goal is to build one platform. So the ability for any agency, if it's a small little digital agency in Spokane, Washington, which is where I'm from, that does, you know, a tiny campaign for maybe a local business, they can do it right next door to the Tic-Tacs and the MySpaces and the, you know, Toyotas and whatnot. So creating that, just basically knocking down that wall and allowing anyone to create content. What you guys are doing with that new creator, excuse me if I missed up the branding on it, but that creator, it's another reason. Now we have an ability for even just a digital agency to get their feet in the door and make it really, really effectively with limited cost, limited time, a very simple platform. So,
there's, from Total Immersion's perspective, we do some groundwork to sort of pre-enable augmented reality experiences on various devices that are either in market today or the coming market in the future. But we actually try to not focus entirely on augmented reality, either from a viewer or having something that's pre-installed. We try to focus on campaigns where it's so intuitive or the call to action is so great that you don't even know you're doing an augmented reality experience. And that is it's the sort of effort that we put in today, not only in digital marketing, such as the examples you guys saw today, but also just in your everyday fabric of your lives, whether it's an e-commerce solution, a gaming solution, or, you know, for whatever type of vertical market where it's a true type of utility. I think in that case, whether you have millions of units pre-installed, I don't think will be as much of a factor.
I think also, I mean, social media certainly helps in terms of reaching that penetration level, because, I mean, from what we've seen, all the AR applications are moving to the mobile side, right? Because it makes the most sense. We used to hold up magazines to an online viewer and see, you know, a 3D car come alive, but when a user is engaged with an advertisement, most of the time, they probably have a mobile device, not a desktop near them. But what we've seen is with mobile apps, an app is encased in an app. One user downloads it, and that's it. But when you integrate social media, Facebook, Twitter, where you can share that with people, your friends, relatives on Facebook, that transcends just that one user. Now, with the Macy's app, now that you share a photo of your kid at the Macy's stores and it says automatically, this picture was taken at Macy's, if you want to try it yourself, download this app, you're now reaching your network of friends that are on Facebook, on Twitter. So for agencies, those social media, as much as sometimes it's understated, really helps kind of expand beyond that just one app and expands to users that see it on social media.
Yeah, great. So I'd like to open it up to audience questions. So if anybody has a question, come on up and use the mic.
This might be a confidential question, but how you guys are the biggest players, quote customers for campaigns, for application? Is there a structure, not talking about the number figure, but is there a structure that you guys follow when you design a campaign? Because each one has a different platform.
Yeah, I can share with that. It's actually not confidential unless I tell you how much things cost. So there is a basic structure. When you look at an augmented reality campaign, specific for marketing, I'm not talking about industrial use cases and other use cases. There's the software piece, right? The software that enables the augmented reality technology. There's also the content piece, which, depending on the content that you choose, I guess TikTok, or it's 2D, 3D? 3D, okay. So in the content world, like just using TikTok as an example, I hope it's okay. There's a difference between 2D and 3D content. There's also a difference between who's creating the content. Is it us as AR developers creating the 3D content for you? Or are there available assets that are already available, or 2D contents that, are done? And also, do you choose to have social media integrated? Did I miss anything?
No, I think it's from pure digital marketing purposes, it's Total Immersion follows a similar model. It's a combination of a license fee for the software, which typically gives you use it for a certain finite amount of time, 6 months, 3 months, a year, and then production costs, which are just a time materials type of exercise. Now, we are starting to think a little bit more out of the box about how we can do more risk-reward type of deals, especially where there's a call to action that may involve, it's a digital marketing campaign, but there may be a call to action to download a paid app or some sort of e-commerce piece. And in that case, we'll do more of reduce the license cost, do more of a minimal upfront, and then do more of a rev share on the back end, whether it be for the applications you may be downloading, whatever it happens to be. We're starting to think a little bit more about breaking out some of the standard licensing production molds.
Yeah, for Gravity Jack, we don't really try and fit ourselves into a model necessarily, because our goal is to create compelling use cases that really play to augmented reality. So a video over a poster has been done a million times. What can we do with this agency, or what can we do with this brand that creates something completely new? Beyond that, it's with our MySpace campaign and some others, we want a lasting partnership. So we don't really necessarily get into, okay, dollars and cents, here's where we're going, here's the licensing, here's the whatever. We don't necessarily play that game right up front. We want to spend enough time brainstorming, okay, what's cool? How can we get people engaged? What's the call to action? What's the key piece here that people are willing to spend time to download the app, to look at the experience, and then what happens after that, instead of really getting into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, just one more question.
Chat with you offline if you want.
I just have a quick question. For the future of AR, I know everyone's focusing on apps. Are you guys looking at HTML5 as far as, because all the new TVs and everyone's going to have cameras on them, Samsung's pushing that. Is that something that you guys are seeing as a future marketplace?
You go ahead.
So this also came up in one of the other sessions this morning. So HTML5, I think certainly is viable for being the future, to take away from some of the existing technologies today. There's a few shortcomings that will make it hard for that to be the technology of today based on just more of an open browser or sort of app download approach. There's no true connectivity to a hardware like a web camera, so already you're DOA from an AR experience. There's no IP protection. DRM is really non-existent. It's open source code. That said, if you use HTML5, and I'm not a technologist, so I may be going beyond my expertise here, but if it's in contained environments, so we absolutely, from Total Immersion, think that IPTV is a very strong initiative around augmented reality. We think that's a viable platform to consume that type of experience. And if you can use HTML5 in those closed environments where you don't, those issues go away, then I think HTML5 can be very viable very fast.
It's pretty much the same answer I would give. You know, everyone, it's mobile is the key focus. So HTML5 on a mobile device is a much more limited subset, especially on an iPhone, on that platform specifically, technically speaking, to be able to deliver the kind of rich content we want to. All the content creators want to do more and more and more. And if we did deploy an HTML5 with that platform and that mindset, we've already limited ourselves with the robust 3D capabilities that a lot of our engines can do. You know, video playback, I mean, all that stuff. You've kind of lost, you know, DOA necessarily. And it'd be interesting to see where HTML5 goes, but it's a tricky space to be in. And I think the mobile apps are so popular and so viable that it's a no-brainer solution.
Yeah, so for Genio, we developed a language called ARE, which is Augmented Reality Experience Language, and we're heavily looking at HTML5 because for advertising, when it comes to mobile, HTML5 ads, you know, make sense because the user doesn't have to download an application, and we get that from our clients a lot, is how do you directly connect with the end consumer without having to download something. I've heard rumors that the camera capability with iOS might be coming in 6 months. I don't know. There's probably more people here that might know more than me. But if that does come, HTML5 will be a big player in AR, especially on the mobile side.
Thank you.
Okay, so last question, 15 seconds for each panelist. What do you think for the next year is the most important trend in AR that marketers and advertisers really ought to know about? So who's up first? Lisa, go, 15 seconds.
First. Trend for marketing?
Most important trend for marketers in AR the next 12 months.
Usefulness.
Usefulness, okay? Justin.
That was mine too. I was going to say compelling use cases, practical uses, utility uses.
So you're saying we're going to see that in the next 12 months?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Scott.
I don't know how you cannot answer that question. With the same answer. It's we've really got to get away from gimmicks, and there will always be that to some limited extent. But I think the more that we can make AR a utility from a digital marketing consumption standpoint, the better we're going to be in terms of seeing that in the Super Bowl ad, which is what somebody said in another panel will be sort of the litmus test about whether AR is here to stay.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, join me in thanking the panel. This was good. Thanks.
Yeah, good to meet you. Thanks. Take care. Hey, thanks.